Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of my Projectionist vlog. My name is Eve. Thank you very much for tuning in. And today is July 16th, 2020. And 10 years ago today, on July 16th, 2010, we saw the release of Christopher Nolan's Inception. So, just to celebrate, I'm going to talk about working with that IMAX film and running it for however long it ran because of how busy it was. So, real quick, so when Inception came out, our theater just completed its entire digital rollout in the 35mm projection booth. We converted all of our 35mm to Sony digital projectors, but the IMAX projector remained film up until February of 2011. So we had some time to run some, real IMAX film prints up until we went digital. And Inception was one of them. So it was pretty cool having the only film print in the entire building at Regal New Rock City 18 in IMAX. And we were responsible. We had to make sure that this did not damage, it did not fail. And we had a successful run with this print. We kept it clean, no scratches, nothing. So just wanted to point that out. So the print came around July 9th or 10th. I believe it was shipped out the 7th. I'm naming off the packing slip that I still held on to. So this is the packing slip that we got. I just covered up. There's some names on here. You see right there. Now, for some reason, this packing slip is for an IMAX theater in Rochester, New York. I guess they got ours at the time. Didn't matter. We both received our IMAX prints. Would have been nice to have ours. But here it is. Here's what it looks like. I'm just going to not fold one half, but kind of roll it over on the other side. But it says the title, Inception. I guess it's the shipping date, the 7th of July. Down here it says 8 boxes. Over here, it's the date of arrival. So we received it around that time, July 9th or 10th. And I started building it. This was the first Christopher Nolan movie that I assembled on IMAX film. I didn't start building IMAX prints until sometime in mid-2009, early 2009. But the first IMAX movie of his that I ran was Dark Knight. But this was the first IMAX movie of his that I built and ran on IMAX with this. And then from that point on, every movie of his I assembled, except for Dunkirk. I did not assemble that. We received that as two big pieces, and I just put it together. So this took me 2 days to put together, about 5 hours each night. I took my time, no rush. I didn't want to overwork myself. You have to do it overnight. And after the 2 days, I had to test run it a couple of times to, ensure the soundtrack matched up and that the projector would stop when it would after we programmed it. So you have to run it a few times. It's a lot of work setting up IMAX. And then I ran it for a couple of the staff at the theater after hours. And then I ran it for the audience on July 16th, opening day. And it was a busy weekend. It didn't do Dark Knight numbers. It wasn't constantly sold out every show. But, during the day, it was a really good number of people that went to see it. But then for the prime rounds, it was sold out. And this movie did well up until the middle of September. It did really well this summer. We started off with Iron Man 2. We had Prince of Persia, Sex and the City 2, Robin Hood, Karate Kid, The A-Team, Toy Story 3, just naming off all these big movies. But this was the last big movie to come out in the summer of 2010. And it did well. And it was also a real, test for Christopher Nolan in the studio, to prove that Christopher Nolan can sell a movie with his name alone. And this was it right here. He didn't need to have a big branding of a comic book superhero or comic book hero. But this was it. This was proof that Christopher Nolan can sell a movie on his own. And people loved it. We had a good run. I was very happy to run it for everybody. And yeah, people just enjoyed it. So I believe when this movie ran its course, we replaced it with either Megamind or Guardians of Gaul. I think it was Guardians of the Owl movie from 10 years ago that Zack Snyder directed, the animated Owl movie. That was in IMAX 3D. But yeah, so while I was assembling this film, I learned by assembling it that unfortunately this movie was not shot with IMAX cameras. I did read up on it after that it was shot with 35 millimeter and I believe 65 millimeter large format, but no IMAX film was involved with this movie. So this was a actual IMAX DMR. Every Nolan movie, with the exception of this, from Dark Knight on up until Tenet, is shot with IMAX, except for this. I don't know why. For a while I didn't know why, but I did find a recent interview with Wally Pfister, the cinematographer, and he talks about regretting not shooting this with IMAX. Something to do with this movie being mostly handheld, and at the time they just didn't develop technology that allowed for handheld. That didn't come into play until I think Interstellar with Hoyt van Hoytema as cinematographer. So, but yeah, that was my run of Inception, and I miss it. It was a good run. It's one of my favorite movies that I ran. So, let's see. In my collection, I have... By the way, how awesome is Tom Hardy in this movie? You know, how crazy is this was the movie that made Tom Hardy a household name. He's been in so many movies prior to this for like 10 years. Nobody knew who he was until this movie came out, and it was like this scene and just his character alone. He was the best part of the whole film. And look, because of him, we got because of this, he became Bane. He was in a couple of good dramas, Warrior, Lawless. He was Mad Max. He was in Dunkirk, another Nolan movie, and he was Venom. So it's pretty awesome. This movie made Tom Hardy a household name. I have here in my collection a couple of 35 millimeter trailers that I held on to. It's the last bit of film that our theater received before we went digital, but I'll show you. That's it. The label's a little faded. That's okay. I'll show you the other one. Alright. Okay. Here's label's a little better. Inception. And this is my favorite trailer in the advertisements. The second favorite trailer is a teaser trailer, and the third favorite is the medium the trailer they released in like March or April or something like that. There's also an alternate label on here. Warner Brothers would do this with like regular labels, but Fox would always do this as like their only label. I guess they were a little cheap. But Warner Brothers would have this as an alternate label, just the white and the computer typing. But yeah, 35 millimeter trailers for Inception. Those are very hard to come by on eBay, just because Chris Nolan is like a huge director now. He's very highly regarded. Now I have here, after we were done with this run, we were told to trash the print, which essentially just means just cut it up, put it in boxes and stuff like that. But I wanted a little souvenir. So this, in my hand, this is about maybe a minute long, or a minute long, but it's some of this scene in here, and I'll show you right there. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this was an IMAX film, so you can see it's not filling up the frames. It's an IMAX DMR, so it kind of appears widescreen on the film. But this is 15 70mm IMAX film, and this actual piece of film ran for a busy audience for 8 weeks. Not just one busy audience, but this ran for many shows at New Rock City. So that's pretty much it. If you haven't seen Inception, rent it, stream it, purchase it. It's a very good buy. I promise you will not get disappointed. Not be disappointed. Like I said, it's my favorite movie. I know a lot of people that love this film. And it's a good story. It's good fun. It's a great time at the movies when, movies were very popular. A little better than most of the stuff that comes out today. But yeah, definitely check it out. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in. This is an 80's Die Hard production. Later. Bye.